Alright guys, my name is Metagoblin and today I'm going to be giving you a Resto Druid healing guide for Classic WoW. So it's important to know that this video will be relevant for every single phase of the game, so don't worry when you're watching this video, it's going to be useful to you. This video will cover a number of topics: talents, stat priority and pre-raid best in slot gear, enchants, consumables, and lastly we'll finish off talking about the healing playstyle. And just before we jump in guys, please do give me a quick follow on Twitch. I've finally started raiding properly, I'm level 60 now on my rogue, so look forward to that. So when it comes to talents, your talent build is going to be dictated by your role in the raid. Because when it comes to raid healing, you're either going to be the general raid healer, where you're going to be assigned to certain groups to heal, or you're going to be the tank healer, where it's your main priority to just keep the tank alive. So this is something that should be discussed between the raid leader and your class leader, because you kind of need to divide all the roles between, you know, all of the healers. Generally, the paladin becomes the main tank healer on the alliance side, but on the horde side, you're more likely to actually be the tank healer. And the best, this is the spec I'm showing you right now, is the general raid healing spec. Let's talk about some of the real key talents in this build. I mean, most of the talents, you know, they're just flat out increasing your healing, there's not much to talk about. This talent here, Reflection, is a really important talent because it means that you benefit from your mana regeneration while you're casting. So this means that you can actually benefit from your spirit stats, similar to the Priest. And the reason why we spec into balance, the main reason why we do it is to get the Moonglow talent. The reason why we do this build is also known as the most mana efficient build because it specs deeper into balance to get that mana efficiency from Moonglow. But generally, the key talent here, that, you know, the only real good healing talents are Nature's Grace and Moonglow. Or on the way down, you can really get any talents you want, apart from Improved Forms that is going to be useful for the tanks. Any talent you really want that you feel is going to be useful to you in a PvP scenario or some kind of soloing scenario, you pick the talents that you want. But these ones are the necessary talents to pick in this build. Next we have a build that is more tuned for tank healing, particularly because of the ability Swiftmow. Swiftmow, what it does basically, you put a rejuvenation on the target and it makes that rejuvenation instantly cast the kind of like healing value of that rejuvenation instantly. So it's a really good emergency heal because you're always going to have rejuvenation on the tank. So if you see that your tank is going low, you can press literally one spell, which instantly is going to provide a massive chunk of healing to keep that tank alive, and then you can, you know, transition in with a regrowth to just basically save a tank's life in kind of like emergency situation when he's really getting low on health. So this is why this build here is better for, you know, healing the tank. So if that's your job in the raid group, this is the better build for you. Obviously you also spec a little bit into balance to get the Improved Forms effect as well. Here we have a slightly alternative build that I would only recommend when you're starting to get better gear and you're getting a really big mana pool because you're stacking a lot of intellect gear, a lot of MP5, and mana efficiency isn't that much of a problem, especially with, you know, consumables and stuff like that, because this is a less mana efficient build, but it is technically the highest healing build, and that's because of the kind of symbiosis of the Nature's Grace talent, which basically whenever you get a crit with your heal, it reduces the cast time of your next heal by 0.5 seconds, which is really good. And obviously improved regrowth, which increases the critical effect chance of your regrowth by 50%. So regrowth does crit quite a lot, and obviously when you're critting a lot, you're going to have that reduced cast time, so you can spam heal the crap out of regrowth and provide a ridiculous amount of single target healing on the tank. This is more of a tank healing spec as well, but again, like when you've started to get some gear, maybe you're doing speed running, you've got raids on farm, this is probably the better, you know, spec to go for because of the amount of ridiculous healing that it provides on a single target. So let's quickly talk about stats. The stat priority is as it stands. First of all, healing power, then MP5, then spirit, then intellect, then spell crit. Okay, let's talk about this. So the reason why we stack healing power first is because when you stack more healing power, it means you can start to down rank your spells, because your lower rank spells will provide more healing because you've stacked enough healing power to basically equalize the healing value of a lower rank spell to the max rank spell. Which means if you're casting spells which require less mana because a lower rank, it means in the long run you have much better mana efficiency because you're casting lower rank spells. Then we have MP5 because it's just a really good raw stat to increase your mana efficiency. Then it's Spirit because Spirit is a little less valuable than MP5, but it still is quite valuable. Basically, if gear has Spirit on it, it's not going to be valuable to shamans or paladins, which means they're going to be valuable to either priests or druids, which means you're probably going to get over spirit gear. The reason why I put intellect so far down is because, well, every single piece has intellect, to be honest, so it's just kind of a stat there in the background that you don't need to worry about that much. Just make sure, you know, you have a big enough mana pool to sustain yourself for a big, you know, a long raid fight. And then we have spell crit on the end, right? So most of the time spell crit isn't the most valuable stat. However, like we mentioned before, that ultra kind of crit healing spec that we mentioned, then obviously spell crit becomes more valuable. But again, like, you're going to need a little bit more gear, and you need to be further. We need to be basically further on in Classic WoW's lifetime for that spec to become more valuable to us. And then, you know, stacking a little bit of cheeky spell crit, it's kind of like an icing on the cake talent. It is going to be quite useful to you because you are going to get those crits faster. So let's start talking about pre-raid best in slot gear and all the kind of nuts and bolts that you need for playing a Resto Druid. So as always, guys, you know, with my, you know, PvE guides, I've made a big Google Drive document with literally everything you need to know, all the essentials. As you can see here, you've got all your pre-raid best in slot gear, a number of columns of different options, and then obviously when Phase 2 comes out, you've got more options. Even when Phase 4 comes out, you've got a little bit more options there. If we go into the next tab, we have all the essential enchants, and as you go along, more enchants become obviously available, like Zul'Gurub enchants and stuff like that, and even if you go far enough along, you have the, you know, Naxxramas enchants. And then we have all the consumables, all the essential consumables that you need, particularly the mana consumables. I'd recommend stacking all of them because they are quite. These like mana like consumables are really useful when you're basically not so geared, because you need your mana pool to kind of last the entire fight. So definitely recommend getting them. Flasks are kind of expensive, but they're there, you know, when you start saving a bit more money, or you are just literally rich enough to do that, and maybe you're speed running. Then obviously they're going to be useful. And then I've also got some world extras and alcohol extras, you know, and weapon oils, and all the defensive consumables that are going to be useful probably for specific raid mechanics and stuff like that. And then for reference, if you need to look for talents, I have all the builds here for you, so you know you don't have to, you know, mess about looking for the builds. They are just here in this Google Drive document. You can basically bookmark it onto your, you know, whatever browser you use, and then you just have everything you need to know one click away. So healing playstyle largely depends on, obviously, first of all, what build you've gone for and what your role is in the raid. So whether you're going to be doing tank healing or general raid healing or melee group healing, range group healing, that kind of thing. When it comes to tank healing, normally you're just going to keep a rejuvenation on the tank pretty much all the time, and you're probably going to cast a low rank regrowth or a low rank healing touch. But most of the time you are going to cast a regrowth instead, because again it puts a hot on the tank. The thing about tanks, obviously they're taking damage all the time, like constantly, so hots on a tank is normally quite beneficial, especially with, you know, a priest renew, and you've got 2 hots on the tank, the priest has got a renew on the target, so all those hots together kind of smooth out the amount of damage that the tank will actually take. Obviously sometimes the tank gets really low on health, which the standard procedure for that is to pop obviously a swift meld, get all the hots like juiced up, and then instantly go nature swiftness into a really high rank regrowth or a really high rank healing touch, depending on how much health is lost. So, you know, you just pop swift meld, nature swiftness straight into, you know, a really big heal. When it comes to general raid healing, normally you are just going to spam basically a low rank healing touch or a low rank regrowth, you know, depending on what spec you've gone for, and that's generally it. I would recommend, you know, basically spamming regrowth better, because regrowth is kind of better because obviously it provides a hot. So if that target takes more damage after you've done the heal, he will probably be, you know, better off because he's got a hot on him, and he'll probably require less healing the next time you have to heal him. So, but generally it's a bit like, you know, paladin playstyle. You're really just spamming like a really cheap fast heal over and over again. You've also got the ability Tranquility, which is a really good AoE heal. You normally only use this to counter specific raid mechanics, because obviously it is quite mana demanding. It's nearly 1k mana, so you want to use this in very specific situations. You don't just use it, you know, for the fun of it, really. You wait for your class leader to kind of coordinate when you're going to use Tranquility to counter certain raid mechanics. But now let's talk about like non-healing jobs that the Resto Druid has to do. So let me draw your attention to this ability Remove Curse. So Druid and Mages are the only classes that can really actually do remove curses. And in my general experience, mages are less keen to do remove cursing, you know, because mages are more focused on doing a DPS, so really it's mainly your job to remove curses. And there's a lot of nasty curses on, you know, in the game, so it's really good. If you want to stand out as a druid, you know, be on the ball with getting, you know, removing curses. Another important job of Resto Druids is to maintain the Thorns buff on the main tank. The reason why Thorns are so useful is because it's just basically free aggro for the tank. It just helps the tank out a little bit, generate a little bit of aggro, so it's really useful, especially when you stack it with Fire Shield. You also have the ability Innovate. Normally you are going to cast this on whoever in the group is the lowest geared, or just generally the whatever healer is slacking the most in all honesty, or whoever didn't bring mana pots, because it is a very useful cooldown obviously, but it shouldn't be a cooldown that's, you know, relied upon generally, because you should have enough mana efficiency with your gear and with your consumables and with your general playstyle, but it's kind of like a backup thing. Like some healers might call for it, and you know, if they're being a little bit cheeky, so normally you reserve this for whatever healer. Well, again, it's going to be commanded, it's going to be dictated by your raid leader who gets the Innovate normally most of the time. But if no one's like asking for it, then obviously use it on yourself whenever you're going low on mana. And the last thing I can really talk about is your combat res. It's called Rebirth. Generally this is the main reason why druids are actually brought to the raid, because it is ridiculously useful little spell for any raiding environment, particularly when it comes to resing the tanks. That's what it's going to be mostly reserved for, is resurrecting the tank if the tank accidentally dies. So always remember to keep the reagent stacked really heavily in your bags, and remember it is really mana demanding, this spell, but it is, you know, obviously ridiculously useful to the raid. So normally you can, you know, if you've used a Rebirth, then it probably basically gives you kind of priority on Innovate, so you probably will have to use this in part with Innovate. And if you don't have enough mana, again, my recommendation really is to save your mana consumables as late as humanly possible, because you may need to pop your mana potion or demonic rune to get a Rebirth up, and Rebirth is a really obviously essential ability in a raiding environment, because it can literally be the determining factor of you doing a, well, raid wiping or not, or killing the boss or not. But anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end the video there. My name is Metagoblin. Until my next video, ciao.